Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening if you're in the East, or good morning if you're in the West. Welcome to another ICMDA webinar. And today we have great pleasure of listening to Dr. Rudi Mygovich speaking on the topic of where is God in war? And this is something that Rudi has a lot of first-hand experience of. He spent the last 15, 16 months taking supplies and equipment from different parts of Europe, gifts from around the world to help meet the needs of people across Ukraine in the healthcare setting. ICMDA, as many of you will already know, is an organization that brings together at least 100 or more local organizations like the Christian Medical Fellowship in the UK, and I'm representing them on the ICMDA board, or the Christian Medical Association of Ukraine, where Rudi is the president. And many of you will be aware that we have our World Congress coming up next month, and we're expecting up to 1,000 representatives from around the world to gather together in fellowship for the event that we have usually every 4 years to talk about God's work in mission and in healthcare through our different organizations. So welcome to today's meeting and gathering. And Rudi will probably be known to quite a lot of you. He's a neurologist, although he's not practicing much of that at the moment because he's totally given over to organizing relief and medical aid across Ukraine, which you will hear about shortly. So I think without more ado, I'm going to hand over to Rudi, who I got to know quite a bit over the last few months. He came to our conference at the Christian Medical Fellowship a couple of months ago and spoke there in a very effective way. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Rudi has to say to us. Over to you, Rudi.
Thank you, Howard. You're the best. First of all, it's an honor to me to be with you, share with you the story. And ICMDA is a huge part of what God has been doing since the beginning of war. And actually before, we felt a lot of the support from ICMDA, Peter. And I definitely can assure you, it would not be happen without ICMDA. And let me tell what would not happen. So the topic of my presentation is where God is in the midst of the war. And I want to share with you what we went through and how we saw God. And I would like to start from this verse. Because this is Jesus' words, and because of your little faith, for truly I say to you, if you have a faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. And why I choose this verse? Because this verse is so close to me, because literally everything this happened was like a small grain of mustard seed. But we are not set to mountains, we ask. We give simple questions, and I can add to Jesus' word, not fix it, but add that questions are also have this power of holiness. So I don't know, here. I will share you about those are projects that we have, but it's not about project, it's how it all started, this medical warehouse. Maybe no, maybe not. Christian Medical Association created in 1991, and I became president 4 years ago. And I will share you in a little bit later how I became president, but how warehouse happened. So this came from a simple question, how we can help to people with this mistake, how we can help to people, how as Christian Medical Association, we can be useful to them in the medical way, because we are medical workers and we want to help them. And we call to Peter, to Lars, to our friends and churches in the United States, and it all started to move. We're not big charity organization. We never had experience with humanitarian aid, actually, never. And it all started to move from small donation, from boxes, and ended with hundreds, literally hundreds of trucks. We just got around 40 trucks from with beds, refrigerators, super expensive mattresses. But all started with question how we can help to people. And this question is because we are taking care not about organization, but about people. And all the time when we are talking about numbers, we remember that behind those numbers are people. And those people you can see, and especially in the beginning, there was huge lack of medical help. So in Ukraine, because of Chernobyl, we had a lot of problem with thyroid cancer. And the pharmacy were closed or destroyed, and lack of component were not able to transport. So when we got those valuable medicine as thyroxine, L-thyroxine, we sometimes give to every patient only for 10 days, 30 days, depends on supplies that we got. And you can see a little on photo. Some people even died because of that. But it was valuable how we can help to those people, how we can help at least with 10 days medicine. And it's all ended with working with hundreds of hospital and organization. And you can see we work with Greek Catholic Church, we work with churches, they work in deoccupied territories, in occupied territories. We have stories about brave pastors, crazy brave pastors, who went through minefield to bring medical help, not because it's organization, but because those people are in need. So this is our small master of seed that grow to more than 500 tons of help. And you have to understand, this is medical help. So can you imagine when you buy lisinopril or amlodipine or paracetamol? It's also expensive. But I'm talking about even more expensive anesthetic, 50 anesthetic machines, 800 beds, and other extremely expensive. So this is millions of dollars. But it all started, we're still amazed when I'm sharing with you about this information. I'm like, how it happened? And all the time. But it all started when I'm remembering the first days, it all started how we can help, how we can be useful, what we can do at the end of the day. And God bless this question. So the second project we had, we care clinics. And this all started from question from my pastor, future pastor. At the time, he just was my friend, mentor. And he went to the United States and he had a meeting with Baptist Medical Dentist Fellowship president. And he said, Charles, you have to go to Ukraine and do mobile clinics. It was more than 5 years ago. So Charles called me and asked, can you do mobile clinic in Lviv area? Organize it and I will bring in doctors. I was student at that point. I'd never done and never heard about mobile clinics. But I said, let's do it. Why not? It's all started. And for me, it was a miracle because basically I saw people, hundreds of people that came to church, unbelievers. They cried, not because of great sermons, not because of someone preached the gospel in the ways that it touched them, not, but because they feel God's love and felt that someone cared about them. And they asked, can I pray with pastor? Can I visit your church? Because I don't know you, but the thing what you done, the love and care that you give to us, no one gave to us. And for me, it was obvious calling that It's the ideal combination of your profession, not to be appendix in the church as a doctor, not to feel the judgment from the pastor, like you have to serve in teenager ministry, you have to preach, you have to sing in a choir to be effective in church. No, but doctor or medical worker can be more effective in even the pastor when they combine their calling and church mission. So we started to do those mobile clinics, and that's how the board of Christian Medical Association of Ukraine saw me, and they said to me, Rudi, you should be a leader of Christian Medical Association. And I said, no, I'm enjoying my mobile clinics, and it's enough for me. But they talked with me a couple of times, and I said, okay, let's try to do it, but only if you will help me. Of course, they didn't help me, but God was faithful, and we were ready before the war. So those mobile clinics right now, extremely valuable. You can see the photo, and this was done in Mykolaiv region. Snihurivka was more than 10 months under occupation. They literally, I'm sorry, but we'll use this word. They literally hate the soldiers that were with them. They lived in the fear, scaredness, because someone could kill them, anyone could steal from them, anything. So, so those people really, really needed help. And when we came with a team of doctors, they were super excited. And Ukraine is huge, big territory. It's not Syria or Lebanon. It's much bigger. So even such organizations as MSF, IMC, or UNICEF and other, they're not able to cover all medical needs, and Ministry of Health also. So we are doing those mobile clinics, and it's with church is super effective. And again, it's all started right from simple answer, let's do it, and ended it or not ended. We had a Taiwan team, and just today I got many messages about the Taiwan team had a meeting with the president of Taiwan, and the president was impressed by our trip, their trip to Ukraine, and so it's all started from the small. Can we do it? Let's do it, and ended that the president are maybe they will work, maybe they don't. It doesn't matter, but involved in our project or amazed by mobile clinics that doing Christians organizations. We are not dependent on president, but it's again a result that God showing us from simple acts. POCUS. This is our project. This is our project about ultrasound education, and it's all started in August last year. And we had a question: how we can help better, how we can give the help that we better. So we started to receive ultrasound machines, those portable, most of them butterflies. But we understood, okay, if we're gonna give them to every person, every doctor, or we will ask doctors who would like to have butterfly. If you're a medical worker, you definitely will know that many people, even if they don't need it, they will say, oh, of course we need it. So, and it was not the way that we wanted to go. But absolutely, if you're going to ask people who would like to be educated, we will have much less amount of hands raised. And through education, you can filter, you can choose people who worth to receive those equipment, valuable equipment. And you can not just give and forget about it, you can share Christian values, you can demonstrate. And as medical worker, you know, you cannot preach the gospel. And even if you do, we can in Ukraine do it. And such countries as Britain, United States, you can be jealous, but we can do it openly. We can preach the gospel, tell that everyone gonna go to hell and they should repent, but it's not gonna work with the way that it should be, will work when you can demonstrate Christian values. You can train people in those ultrasound and share the story, how you saved the life with those ultrasound and prayed with the person, and how saving and praying affect together. Or you can share that when you're talking with person, you talk with respect, or you're trying to be the best doctor, not because you want to get big salary, also a reason, but because you believe that every person is created by God, and that's why he's valuable. And you can show that and demonstrate Christian values, and not just give this ultrasound and forget about it, but you can show the God how in a live way. So we choose it, and all our project is about it, not just to scream about God, but show live alive God. So we started to do, and right now I'm proudly can share that we one or maybe the biggest ultrasound educational team. We have more than 10 trainers that doing those education. I remember when I hired part-time this brave young man in the corner, and when I talked to Stas, I said, Stas, our goal is to have every week training. And he said, Rudi, it's impossible. It's too difficult. It's too much. So the first month when he was hired, they did 3 trainings. Next month, they did 5. So yes, it's kind of impossible. And right now you can see that those organizations that are on the poster, like Med Global, Razom for Ukraine. So Razom bought more than 100 butterflies and donates them, but they donated through our process of education. And Med Global, even unbeliever organization, it's US unbeliever organization, and church organization, and they paid to our trainers for this education and provide and cover all cost. I think it's already more than 600 doctors. Again, this is the biggest amount who've been trained in ultrasound, focus ultrasound education. Yes, this is a story, but I think we're running out of time. Maybe, oh, okay, I'm gonna stop it. And this is the story how we got to Butterfly Connection organization. So this was this photo I received one day, and this military doctor, he said, it said news, the rocket trapped into our place where we were located, and everything was destroyed. In one moment, millions of dollars were destroyed, but most valuable is safe, it's people. So no one was hurt, everyone survived because they were on a call. So I asked him what we can do, how we can provide more like medicine, drugs. And he said, no, everything is covered by ministry and other organization, charity, but we don't have a butterfly, we don't have ultrasound. So I said, okay, we will provide it, we will fundraise money, or we will find a way to get it. And what I can do more? He said, nothing. Okay, so I said to him, I will pray for you. And he's an unbeliever again. And he said, yes, please pray for me, because definitely we cannot explain how we survived. Only it's God's miracle. So Educare, next our project, also started in the beginning from simple question. As we had many international connections through ICMDA, and we asked them, can you come to us? Can you come to Ukraine and work with our doctors? Again, because you can demonstrate Christian values, you can, and this is the best way to educate people, mentorship, relationship. And so, and some of them came, and I don't have photos or videos, but you can visit our YouTube channel and saw a team from Dallas, Texas, and other parts of the world, Taiwan group, as it came and did a plastic surgery operations and did amazing job, and it was fantastic. But many of them said, we cannot go to Ukraine because, by the way, you have war, but you can send Ukrainian doctors to us. So, and we think, okay, let's start from the small. So we choose 13 transplant, the biggest team that I know, that went on scholarship program. And we thought, okay, it's going to be some small hospital, but it was Harvard Hospital who agreed to accept them. And so they were in Harvard, Massachusetts General Hospital for more than 3 or less than 3 months. The whole transplant team educated in lung transplantation. This is the best doctor in Ukraine. Why? Because we choose them with Ministry of Health together. And Harvard is pretty good university or medical school. And they were totally for free for them in the Harvard and educated in lung transplantation. It's really complicated and it was successful. We already have result of successful transplantation. And we said, okay, but education is good, but how we can firstly decrease the budget, and second, how we can put those our Christian values that are so valuable to us. Christian families, we don't have a church or we don't have believers in Boston, where is Mass General located, but definitely someone there should be at the church. So I called to Jim and asked Jim, do you have a church in Boston? And he said, yeah, Park Street Church. And we found 13 families, Christian doctors, Christian families, and they accepted and they were with those doctors. And I think this is common in all around the world. The surgeons, there are like, I don't want to say that in wrong way, but they are proud. So they asked me before the trip, hey, Rudolf, it's like we are not students, but can you rent like a house for us in Boston and for 13 people, and we're gonna live because like it's not students program, we're adult. And I said, please Google how much costs a house in Boston to rent. And when they did it, it's super expensive. And second, you can choose and rent whatever you want, but if you want to go with us, you have to go to families. So when we had a meeting with minister, they shared about hospitality and love that was surrounded to them. And they built a good relationship with those families. And because even those doctors that would like to be in a hotel or a house, when they face with Christian law, they feel something different. And we didn't stop in Mass General. We got opportunity in Johns Hopkins, and right now this bold man, right now he's a deputy of the Minister of Health, the first deputy. The second woman, it's the director of the biggest ICU department, I think more than 130 beds in ICU, and they literally impacting on the whole medical system in Ukraine. And this team of military doctors and General Zaluzhny signed like vacation or let them go to Yale Medical University, and more other teams and hospitals. But it's all started from simple question: can you come? Can you do something? So it's amazing how God is doing. But in all of that, we try not to lose our values, and always remember that we want to bring to every doctor, to every hospital in Ukraine, this understanding that every person is valuable because it was created by God. And if you love him, if you love them, you have to be the best doctor, especially Christian. And the less, if you love them and you're the best doctor, they will trust you. This is going to be a result. And this is our vision. And I'm just going to share the last statement. Medical worker who see Christ in people. It's the most important the message that we would like to bring to hospitals in Ukraine, because they were, why you hear a lot about corruption and about problems? Because Soviet Union impacted, destroyed, broke human values. How? Simple. You know this phrase, in Soviet Union, everyone was equal. And the big problem of it, everyone is nothing. So when you have this motive, everyone is equal, everyone is nothing, you lose in God's view on people. So that's why you see, you can heard about corruption and all. But if you're gonna see in your patient, not a money, not a disease, not a problem, not a wasting of time, you will see a Christ in a need, because it's based on Matthew 25. When Jesus shared about talk with people and they ask him how we can help you, how we can, and he shared that you visit me in prison, you give me food when I was hungry, you give me clothes when I was naked. So Jesus, he put the picture of needed person and himself in the equal position. And we want to bring this idea to Ukrainian doctors, nurses, and hospitals. And we, as you can see, step by step, we're trying to do it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rudi. Thank you for giving us a snapshot. I realize you could probably speak for hours about all the different experiences that you've had over the past year, 15 months, that would continue to inspire us. I think you have spared us some of the worst elements of what life is like in Ukraine at the moment. We did see some photographs recently, didn't we, about how devastated certain areas are, and particularly when hospitals have been hit, that's the worst of all. But thank you so much for sharing, and we have time for some questions, so please put your questions in the Q&A, and I'll put those to Rudi. But I just wanted to start off, Rudi, by asking you about short-term visits into Ukraine. I was at a meeting earlier this week, and we were talking about short-term visits, and to some extent that's been questioned and challenged in the West, that people, it's the people who go who benefit far more than the hosts and the people who receive them, and therefore should we not be doing vision trips or something similar? But it seems from what you've said, and you've done it both ways, people have gone to the States and people have been to the UK, but I was thinking in particular of the group that came from Taiwan, and we have Hang there as one of the translators, and I saw his picture there. How valuable was that to you? And could you tell us a bit more about that visit and the value of short-term visits from other ICMDA member countries?
Good question, because I think sometimes people or big organizations such as WHO, Red Cross, they are forgetting to ask local organization, hospitals, people, is our help is not going to hurt a system or not overload system, but help. So it's always important to keep in mind that. So I definitely can assure that if we can communicate with doctors that would like to come, it will not be harm. Good preparation, yes. The simple question, it's a start. But after those simple questions, long and detailed preparation should be about patience, about timing. Should we do that or not do that if we're talking about plastic surgery? Because if we're not going to do that, we will lose the whole meaning. We had mistakes. One time we had a team and amazing plastic surgeons, but unfortunately our hospital was too busy with other teams and they were not ready to accept us. They gathered people, there was hundreds of people, but they not organized it well. So in those, it ended good, but in the middle of it, so time the patients felt without respect. So the preparation has to be on high level, and definitely that's why we're here, to help with preparation, to choose a hospital that wants it to work, because our idea is not to do this 1 week or 2 weeks project, but to bring these people, foreign doctors, to Ukrainian hospital, and then spread this knowledge. Spread the knowledge between the other Ukrainian doctors, because we're not gonna bring a team to every hospital. It's impossible mission, and it's not wise, to be honest. So if Ukrainian doctors can spread it, and we are helping with that after, so that how it can work goodly. And the second, during those trip, they build in a relationship. So in the future they can communicate, and we saw how with this and Natalia, the director of the biggest that was in Johns Hopkins, she connected with another Johns Hopkins anesthesiologist. She asked them to come, and I would say the best organization in ultrasound, Society of Critical Care in the United States. They came and trained around 300 doctors of ultrasound, and it was really good education. They gave them some equipment also, and so those how relationships are being built, and we can see results. That it's not just one day or one time, but you can build relationship, and after that you can be in connection with good contacts and good people.
Thank you. So you'd be keen to encourage others to come forward to organise short-term visits. So if somebody else has got a question on that, do please write it in. We may come back to that later in the Q&A. But Sherry Falkenheimer, who has been in your shoes speaking on the ICMDA webinars over the years, she's asking a question, quite a simple question for you. What types of additional medical skills and training could short-term teams help provide? So what's at the top of your list? So
I would put on top plastic surgeon, reconstructive microsurgery. It's a complicated surgery. It requires a lot. It will take a lot of time to find those photos, but you can imagine the injuries, that military trauma, it's horrible. Without a face, without nose, without part of the body. So you have to be skilled enough to handle those complicated injuries. And yes, Ukrainians are brave, Ukrainians are great and other, but we need education. We can train, we can be trained, but we need education. One of our values is trust. Trust impossible without being open, transparent, and honest. So this honesty moment is to say, yes, we have gaps, big gaps. So that's why especially this is required, trauma surgeon. And those specialties I would put top priority. We do mobile clinics. It's a different, so I would separate those surgery type of people that can come, and mobile clinics. Mobile clinics we do with ophthalmologists, cardiologists, GPs, and we're trying to make it in more complicated way. It's simple, but we're trying to do it more complicated. We put near them students, because our students been under COVID Zoom education for years. And it's bad. It was bad even without Zoom, and it's horrible with Zoom. So and when they have this opportunity, couple days, be with a professional, great doctor from France, Britain, Christian doctors that have different attitude, that will do a simple moments. We don't have time in mobile clinics to pray, doctors, or do other, but God, I will pray for you, God with you. We're here because we love God and we love you. Those simple moments for especially unchurched students, and we take on purpose we take them, not church students, and so they can see more. So I would separate. Of course, we need plastic surgeons, reconstructive, but if you are ophthalmologist, general practitioner, or other specialist, it also will be useful.
Okay, well, really related to that question, and it's getting some thumbs up from people, is Emmanuel Drabo says, how can a young medical doctor far from your country help your team? So that's an individual doctor, but I suspect there are quite a few individual doctors on this webinar who are wondering the same thing. So have you any advice on that, please?
So please help us to spread the word. I'm open to talk in your communities, churches, charity organizations, Christian medical or associations or organizations. I'm here, and you can chat to me, you can mail me, better call in WhatsApp as Howard and maybe Peter know. I'm open that if you can, we're trying to find partners more and more. This is the first. And second, you can donate to ICMDA, and together with ICMDA, we will use those finance in the best way. And as we know, income decrease almost totally. But right now we're using those finances in the best way possible. As Peter liked to share in the beginning, we most of the time bought medical help. Right now, we're just paying for transportation. So it is extremely valuable. Let's say, as it happened with any, as I counted, those 40 trucks cost more than 6-7 millions of pounds. Yeah. It's minimum. And we just pay for them couple thousands of pounds. We should ask David, he's accountant, it's that question, but it's totally not 10, it's more than 20, 30 times more than we paid for it. So, and we required your help, I'm honest.
And we now get quite a lot more equipment donated rather than actual money. And one of the successes recently was, everybody will know about hospitals in the UK. Well, of course, those are no longer needed. So we were able to get quite a large amount of that equipment from the government, which was going to be written off anyway, and get that in those lorries across to Ukraine. So there's that. There's private healthcare groups in the UK are helping. So if anybody on this webinar knows organizations that are wanting to give medical equipment or consumables, then just get in touch with ICMDA. There's a short question I'll just throw in here from somebody asking, would short-term nurses be helpful to your work? I think I know what your answer would be on that, but can you just give a quick answer to that? And then I've got a more detailed question to ask you about how it affects you as a Christian.
Yes, I think yes. We will put them in the hospital and work all the time in one department. And because I think sometimes it's simple, like, please not use that, don't do that, wash your hands. And this is a simple trainings or comments or moments that should be trained from nurses. Wound care, yes, I would say yes. We have we had a couple offers, but it didn't work out well. Somewhere connection was lost, but I think we definitely should try.
Okay. The question I was keen to ask you is from an anonymous attendee, but says, thank you for your presentation. Exposure to war can both weaken and strengthen the faith of Christians, and thankfully often causes people to seek the everlasting safety there is by being in Christ. Would you, Rudi, be able to say something about this in your own situation and your own experience?
So someone shared that I last read in Facebook that humanitarian help should not be a focus of the church because Jesus preached the gospel, and people who are walking for the food are not good followers or walking for the help. And as open society, we have to have those conversations. But I would strongly argue with those person because what Jesus did, gave food and preach the gospel, gave help and preach the gospel, heal. Yes, he was honest with them. You are following for me just because of food. And we can tell about this moment to people. And I know many churches that grow dramatically. So this church from Snigripa that you saw in the photo, before the war, they had, or full invasion, better to say, they had 60 members. As you can understand, after 10 months of occupation, most of the people should left. So only pastor came back. I don't know the all details, but when they came, was deliberated, deoccupied. Right now they have more than 200 of visitors each Sunday. Yes, they came because of food and medical help, but they left. They stayed because of gospel and the church that taking care of them. So we should always remember about giving help, filling a people need, but preaching the gospel and telling them honestly where is real saving, where is spiritual saving. And in the end of the day, you cannot save person for heaven if you're not gonna save it on earth. If the person will die and not get here a hospital, you are the bad preacher. So if you can help to survive, basically survive, do it and preach the gospel.
Okay, well, a related question on that about unbelievers that were encountered during the war and people who came into the church who were unbelievers. The question is, what are the modalities put in place to ensure they remain believers even after the war? So I presume this is a question about the work of the church in ensuring that that harvest field is properly cared for.
The church, as all people, different churches, different people. So some of them became super active. Church became like a system, the beautiful system, organizations that can have connection. I don't know people in Bakhmut, but I know my pastor, and he knows a pastor in Bakhmut, or at least he knows the main pastor in Donetsk region, and this pastor knows his pastor in Bakhmut. So, and the same happened in the internal country as evacuation. So people, pastor from Bakhmut evacuated people to pastor to Donetsk, to Dnipro. Then pastor from Dnipro delivered people to Lviv pastor, and pastor from Lviv delivered to German pastor. Again, because church is like a system, as at one train that give people one to another. And it happened in the other way. The pastor in Finland, he doesn't know people in Donetsk, he doesn't know people in Kiev, but he definitely would know pastor, the main pastor in Ukraine, or call it the way that you would like to call. And he will call and say, hey, do you have some medical organization that would receive this medical help? Yeah, here. And this is how it happened, the system. So of course, our church became an answer for a need, a shelter. We had a stories. I was in Kharkiv region, and poor family was under line of fire, both sides, and they literally said they were under heavy, when it was heavy time, they were in church, because church became like a shelter. And I have a story when Baptist pastor should buy cigarettes to give it on to guards, Russian guards on every pit stop, So they would let him to occupy territory. Those amazing stories. When a Catholic priest came, and Russian soldier came to him and said, "What are you doing here? Why are you trying to Zaporozhye?" And he answered, hey boy, are you a believer? Do you believe in God? Come and I will repent you, and God will forgive your sins. And he said, okay, go, priest, go. So so definitely the church became answered. Of course, there's and sad stories. So I many times ask to pray about church, because if the obvious timing came and the church is still not active, is it a live church? Is it still life in the church? So so there are still concerns as people as all the time, but always you have to remember life or the God with people who are trying to do something and trying to show his love to other people.
Well, I know you travel a lot across Ukraine and into Poland, and of course you've been to the UK recently. But question from Dr. Gautam in Nepal says, what do you fear while you're traveling? Being hit by artilleries or not being able to provide the necessary equipment for the hospitals you're going to? And how do you see your prayers working while you're on mission?
So first of all, you have to understand that many people that when they come into Ukraine, they amaze because all restaurants are open, coffee shops and other moments are open, and there is life happening. In 80% of the time, in the Ukrainian territory, there is calm, peaceful life. Yes, 9 drone attacks, rockets hidden, exploded here and there. And yes, it's sometimes happening, but most of the time or in Lviv, we never been moving from the Lviv area. We were doubting in the beginning, but when I understand how this thing will go, we stayed here with I have son, I have wife, and so I'm not responsible just for my life, but for them, first of all. And so you have to understand 80% of territory is safe, so you don't have to worry. Only on the front line, those 50, 100 kilometers, they're hard and you can be killed by artillery. Second of all, Russians are crazy, or they're shouting and they have many artillery bombs, but it's still expensive. It still costs a lot. So yes, we have stories in Dnipro, in Vinnytsia, when they, by mistake or on occasion, trapped in civilians' place. But still, I think they're trying to find some other places. So when I'm traveling to East, I wasn't on the front line. It's really dangerous, but you can come like 30 kilometers to front line. It's still be normal. There's still people that are still alive. We did a mobile clinic in the 30-40 kilometers from front line. So all other territory is not so dangerous.
And I think that the church is represented by the people on this webinar. Will be praying for your safety and the safety of all your team and all those involved in providing help across Ukraine in the over the last 15, 16 months and going forward. In terms of going forward, there's a question from your friend Augustin Lutakwa, who's preoccupied most of the time in trying to get the World Congress ready for next month, but he's saying going forward, how do you see the support you need from ICMDA going forward, actual mid to long term, besides training that you mentioned and short-term mission? What are your particular needs in the medium to long term?
So we continue to work with supplying moment, filling a need in hospitals, in churches, to help people in need, especially on the occupied territories, because there is no a lot of medical help, pharmacy, or people just don't have work and money because everything is destroyed. So we have to still work there, that we cannot stop our work. Sometimes people asking, when are you going to close the warehouse? Because it should have. When we're going to see that there is no need. So when we're going to see that less or more is being covered by government or other organization, I would immediately close the warehouse and let people go. But until we see the huge need, we will work in trying to find support in kind donations of medical help to provide, because we can do it and we will not give up, because there's still people in need. So this is the first. And second, again, you can continue to donate to ICMDA. And this is a simple act of faith, but the war showed the horrible moment. Sometimes we're saying life is precious, or you cannot buy the life. Actually, you can. We discovered that you can buy it. You can buy it with ambulance. You can buy it with anesthetic machine. You can buy it with sutures, or you can buy it just for $30 for a tourniquet. Literally. So when you're thinking, oh, I'm just donated $10 per month, do this a faith step. I'm gonna donate $10 per month for 1 year. Because in the end of the day, we're gonna have $120. But if we're gonna have 1,000 doctors that will have the same passion and the same, God will do a miracle. I think God is not doing a miracle. Sometimes, yes, it's like go and walk. Go and stand and walk. But usually it's about being faithful and continue work what you're doing. And I think from our faithfulness, God can do big miracles.
Well, another of your friends, David Sorday, we were together, all of us, a few weeks ago, and he organizes all the logistics for getting equipment from the UK to you in Lviv. And he just said, looking at what's happened over the past year, in terms of whether we do this for other countries or anywhere else, he said, it's been like a perfect storm, but a perfect storm in a good sense. A perfect storm is often all the bad things coming together. But he said, from his perspective, it's like all the good things coming together, with the desire from ICMDA family to help you and your colleagues, being willing to take what is offered and brought to you and distribute it despite risk and danger to yourself. And the money that's come in, the equipment, the consumables that is continuing to come in, he says it's like a perfect storm of God's goodness. And I think we praise God for that. And in terms of Augustine's question, which I think we're going to look at in more detail at the Congress, is how do we continue this, but how might we help other members in ICMDA in their particular time of need? So we're coming to the end. There is one last question I can just slip in if you've got a short answer to this, which is about your mobile clinics. Do you have trauma-focused mental health care at your mobile clinics or hospitals? So quick answer to that one.
So trauma care is like a surgeon. Sometimes we have, but it's more exceptions than a rule, because it's complicated. Usually we do those mobile clinics in unsterile conditions, like churches, schools, other facilities. So we are not involved in the surgeons. But if we can deliver the person, it's not we don't have like a problem with delivery. Like there is 60-80 kilometers and there is going to be a hospital with a room when you can do a surgery. And the second emotional or mental health issue, we don't have the specific project, but I can answer that those mobile clinics, they're already showing a mental support, sometimes just holy presence and here we to help you, already a huge mental support. Because when we're talking about mental health, yes, the people that were raped, the people that lost their parents, limbs, other physical damages, it's complicated. You have to work with psychiatrists. One pastor told me that he has a group of girls that born children from Russians. They didn't do abort, and they decided, made this decision to have a child. So you're definitely not gonna handle it easily. So you have to have professionals. But if we're talking about a general, like all population, the simple conversations and simple questions like how I can pray for you, and simple talk with person, just remind them, here I am to help you. This is a huge mental support that we're doing on those mobile clinics. And by the way, the last one British organization, they donated more than 90 pallets of tampons and pods. And again, I think they paid just for logistics. So one church, one of our member organization, started to receive them in Volyn region, and they started to organize a women groups. Who came? IDPs, internally displaced people. So women came, and they started to, okay, let's organize a woman groups. So a woman group support being organized around tampon and pods. And this is how it happening. The churches became like answer, and tampons can help unite of people. This is amazing how complicated things are literally very simple.
Well, sadly, Rudi, our time's come to an end, and as usual, the questions are pouring in. I think we got through most of the questions, but I notice in the chat there are some other questions which we can just handle by saying, just go to the website. There's a question, can you specify donations to ICMDA exclusively for Ukraine? And Marie has kindly sent to the icmda.net link for that, Ukraine appeal. So I think we've covered most things. Somebody asking about ultrasound, but I think people can contact you through Josh to ask any questions, and then Josh can make the direct links. But thank you so much, Rudi, for sharing, and we continue to uphold you in prayer, and I'm sure those who've joined us for the webinar will be more informed, better informed, and more inspired to continue to pray for peace in Ukraine and for the ministry that you're undertaking, and that God the Holy Spirit is enabling to bring many, many people to know the Lord Jesus Christ. So please, everyone, feel free to join us next week for the next webinar. But in the meantime, I just want, on behalf of all of you, to thank Rudi for his talk and for all that you've shared with us today. Thank you, everyone. God bless.